Welcome to Labgrown. I am joined in the studio again by Mafuba. I actually trapped them here, but now we're joined also by Dinah, who is eating some crafty right now. Dinah, what are you eating from the craft services?
Right now, I'm gnawing on this root beer bottle.
There's donuts. You don't have to eat the root beer bottle.
Yeah, you don't have to eat the bottle, dude.
I mean, I drank the root beer, so like, what else is there to do with it? You know,
Recycling.
You know what? Yeah.
I also took a huge rip off that dab pen. I don't know whose that was because it's gone. So.
I think one of the interns took it.
It's my condolences.
That happens.
Fine. Shit, we're here for the. I know there's something left for you. I'm saying that every time I say it, I think I'm saying it wrong because there's a lot of words to remember.
It's a long leg.
I know there's something left for you. Special.
Yeah.
Dynastic. Wow. So Dinah, how's your microwave?
You know, it wasn't my microwave that I was talking about. So my microwave is doing real nice right now. The power button doesn't work, so I can't like change the power. So if anything ever calls for like 50% power, I can't do it. But I rarely ever use that anyway. So you know what? I'm chilling with my microwave at this current moment.
Good to know.
That has been your microwave update of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Just in case you wanted to know, and the microwave in question mentioned on my album, what I just found on the street.
Hell yeah.
Good to know. That was my next question. Was what's up with that microwave? Then.
Yeah, if you want the full story.
Yeah, the next question is what's up with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up with that? So I was with my partner at the time, and we were walking to the store in the evening, and we were like fighting about something. We weren't like screaming at each other or anything. I mean, we're in public, but we were just arguing about something. And I remember just like seeing this broken microwave on the side of the sidewalk. There's just glass everywhere. And then it was just like reflecting all the light really beautifully. I don't know. It was interesting. I just like completely forgot about what we were fighting about and like didn't care for a few seconds, just staring at this microwave. And it was just like that moment stood out for like some weird reason. So I just wrote about it.
As one would do, absolutely.
Who knows? Maybe that microwave was like a sign, you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah. Like I didn't know what he was trying to tell me, but this broken microwave really spoke to me.
That's perfect. You know what I found? There's like this one item that I find like casually all the fucking time whenever I'm like walking around a different side of town or like even in PR or some shit. Like I'll always find a broken key somewhere. I don't know what that means. Huh. But like
I that's so weird. I can't say I've ever seen a broken key.
I'm one of those people that like I'll just take things home and be like, let me disinfect this real quick and just like have it and be like, I found the shit once and it's interesting. I don't know.
I mean, like I found a baby-sized Air Jordan in Anaheim once, and I put a Minion doll.
That sounds crazy. Honestly, that would be a great like visualizer.
It would.
Like you kind of make it fly. But yeah, no, like I don't know what it is about like keys, like broken keys. I don't know. It's just it's always been like a visual thing that just sticks with you. And like, then are there other things besides the microwave that like you think sort of like you sort of tie it a little bit to this record where you kind of go like, oh, that's sort of like this song reminds me of this or that time or this object or whatever?
That's a really good question. I'd have to look at the track list, just like think about it. Okay, I mean, first I like Caldecott. That is named after a tunnel in the Bay Area. Oh, it's named after a tunnel that's named after a person. And it's this tunnel that it connects two parts of the Bay Area, and I've driven through it my entire life, just going back and forth wherever. You know, it's like going to the city, going to Oakland, San Francisco, like that's how you would get there from where I live. So it's just a really like iconic tunnel for me.
Yeah, like the tunnel's like sort of dividing like old life, new life, like where you're from to where you go. Yeah,
it just feels symbolic. Yeah, it's transitory. It's like it's a liminal space, but like not in the quirky
not
way,
the freaky
like
way.
An actual liminal space.
The back rooms.
I mean, I guess it is kind of quirky, but I don't mean like it's a creepy zone.
No,
like,
yeah.
It's like it has liminality, and like It's cool. I've just always really liked it, and when I was a kid, I'd hold my breath through it. I could never do it all the way, but I tried. And it's kind of neat because as you drive through it, there's lights on the side, and you kind of see them like whooshing past you. Kind of like if you've ever been on the subway and you see the lights just going real fast. It's like, it's cool. It's always like, it's a very stark memory for me.
Yeah.
So I thought I would write. So if the song was already about something very like a transitive period in my life, so I thought it was kind of perfect, you know.
I think that's awesome. Yeah.
True Owl is kind of a nonsense reference. I was looking into like different kinds of owls for some reason.
Yeah.
And I learned that there's like two classes of owls, and it's basically, I think it's barn owls and true owls. I think those are the two
Why are
kinds
they
of
called
owls.
true
Our
owls?
main kinds.
Okay.
But it was cool learning about that, and I was just like, it's weird. Like I was like, true owl. That's sick as fuck, you know.
That sounds like a vigilante.
So that's that one.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah. There's a lot of references on here. And I could just go on and on about it, but I think I'm just gonna cap it at 3. I'd say the last one that I really liked was Lake City Quiet Pills.
Oh, I was gonna ask you about that one.
Totally. That one was okay. So there's this like creepy like Reddit story about this dude who is running like a hitman ring on his like forum, basically.
No way.
And basically there's like, it was involved with there was a term Lake City Quiet Pills, and that was like code for something. So I kind of like thought the metaphor of thinking of somebody that's like hurt you in some way, thinking of that person as a hitman, was kind of funny to me.
Oh shit.
You know, so that's why it's called Lake City Quiet Pills.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I love how the name of the song itself is like literally like at a glance it's like one of the most like emo sounding like names of like a song I've ever heard. But like when you look into it, you're like, wait a minute, what do you mean? What do you mean Quiet Pills? Hold up.
Totally, it's like,
and there's something very interesting about that song that I wanted to ask you about. Is that song you sort of having like a duet with yourself? Like,
yeah,
sort of like pitch your vocals up.
It's like, it's a song about accepting something that has happened in the past that you don't necessarily have an easy time accepting. So it's kind of like this duality, right? Like you kind of have like your old self changing into your new self from the experiences that you've had, and kind of like,
yeah, like an introspective.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's kind of two sides of your personality at play in those kind of situations, you know.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. Like how you're sort of like inner monologue, sort of like figuring things out on the fly.
Totally. Like one of them is like my rational brain, one of them is let's freaking out, and one of them's like pissed off. And it's just like, you know, there's a lot of different like facets of your personality working in like conflicting situations. So kind of adding like two voices to that kind of like emphasize the struggle, you know.
Especially like in that song, but throughout the whole album, Dinah, when you do different like vocal processing, is some of that just for taste, or is there like some like intention behind it too? Because I know personally, like I will use pitched up vocals for different things to not just like fill a gap, but I'll pitch it up because it's like, this is a different voice speaking. Yeah,
no, totally. I do that a lot for sure. I don't think every time I did that on this record was like for that reason. I think a lot of it was just because it sounded sick. But most of the time it's me trying to portray either like some sort of inner conflict or perspectives between two people. And even if it's not like totally meaningful, like the usage of it, I like to think that it still adds to the narrative, even if you can't attribute it to a specific like metaphor of some sort. I like to think that even in situations where you can't like clearly pick out why it's there, you kind of still feel the flow of it telling you something.
Yeah, using it as like a story device.
Yeah, totally. Like
sonically.
it's there. It's something symbolic to latch onto and feel the progression of some sort of narrative, but you might not be able to. It's like abstracted.
Well, I that's something I've talked a lot with some friends recently about. Like, my opinion, the best producers, in my opinion, are the ones that can sort of like tell the same story even if the vocals weren't there. Like, with the music or with the effects or how the vocals are sort of presented to you, and like in each part of the song and the arrangement can really like pull you in weird ways where you're like, this could have been just like a straightforward like pop song, but like it sort of is but isn't. Like, it can sort of work on different levels.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's my favorite like kind of music. Like, it really, I think it really like went through on this like album. But like, is that something that you really love, like listening to in other artists?
Yeah, I definitely really resonate with music like that, and I feel like a lot of music, kind of like more modern music, that's designed to be a little more like streamable, fast paced, like planned obsolescence kind of stuff. I'm basically saying like pop music. Is kind of like detached from that storytelling vibe, and that's okay because that has its own appeal, you know. But like, that's why I can't really like get into a lot of like popular music, and it's not because it's like, oh, it's popular. It's because it's like, I really
it feels
appreciate
one-dimensional,
that
like
narrative that music takes you through, and that's like part of the reason why I latch on to emo so much, is because it's just the emotion is just so there that even if there's not a clear story, you can feel some sort of emotional progression, and it's really cool, and I've always tried to capture that.
And you absolutely do. As you bounce through genre. And so what I want to ask, like, because you could go through, so it's a 47-minute album. That's a lot of work. So like, big ups to that. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
You good?
Just as someone who has gotten like half of an album done, like, I know how much work needs to go into this. That's a lot of work.
It's crazy. It's like this new project I'm working on is even longer, and it's insane working on this scale. Like, I've never done this before, but for some reason it's come really naturally recently.
How long did it take to write this one?
I mean, a lot of these songs have existed for a while. So
it's like an on and off process,
Yeah, it's like a lot of these weren't intended to be on this album. This is just a culmination of what a lot of different things turned into. Because these all were kind of like separate projects until I combined it all.
Yeah.
But like 3 years max. So like, I think the oldest song on there is the song with Search a Dream, All Good People Are Asleep. That was something we had started like forever ago in 2019, I think. Right when I joined Webcage, we started working on that song, and it was basically just like one of my first collabs in the hyperpop scene, which was really cool. And then
that song specifically is like an interesting turn where like they're still surprising, you know what I mean? At the end of the record, you're still like, oh shit, yeah, I can do some hyperpop. Like,
totally, I
got you.
Especially coming after Jacqueline too. Like, that's
Jacqueline is crazy too, but in a completely different context. It feels a bit more folky.
Yeah, totally.
You know
I was listening to a lot of
then like a lot of the early songs on the track
that
list.
does come through. I can see that. Great Grandpa.
What was that? Sorry.
Cool band.
Yeah,
check
seriously.
them out. Cool band.
Huge
check them out.
When did you sort of like realize that like this could be a record, or like you could pull them together? Because I noticed something really crazy.
It was
about
probably
that I'm ask you about later.
I think it was around October, November of 2021. I think it was October, because I remember the moment that I realized, because this was originally going to be an EP. It was going to be Caldecott, Sway, Double Dose, Clout Dracula, All Good People Are Asleep. And I think that was it. And then there's an original demo version of the last track, the Pet Dear Distance. It was originally like a straight up like hyperpop song. And that was originally going to be on there too. But I was just like, I didn't like it for some reason. So I just kind of started adding other things that I've been working on throughout the year. Wrapping up like old things, like reviving old projects and stuff. And then I recorded a few new songs like FTL, True Owl, Gold Medal. Those were all like late additions.
Oh, so like a lot of like the starting ones were kind of like around the end of the work on it.
Yeah, totally. I kind of like created the first moments on the track towards the ends. Gold Medal is kind of halfway through. Yeah, let's see what else. I mean, like City Quiet Pills was pretty late in the process too. Just like a lot of the more electronic ones I made later.
Yeah, because you were, I guess, because that's when like a lot of the influences of like newer people you were meeting, like at that time, just writing with, like did that sort of seep into the project?
I'd definitely say so. I mean, like Gold Medal is straight up like an Unseen Forces song. Just without like the screamo shit.
Yeah, because I was gonna actually ask, do you think that with having other outlets, like especially Unseen Forces, because this album you like kind of tip into that hardcore screamo, post-hardcore, whatever you want to call it, that aggressive sound. You dip your toes in it a little bit in this album, but it feels very held off. In comparison, do you think that having Unseen Forces is a reason like why this album isn't as heavy as it is, or do you think that the future of Dynastic will just be less heavy due to the Unseen Forces?
That's a really good point. I think that I do definitely get a lot of that out with Unseen Forces, but I do really enjoy making things heavy. I think the reason I use it so sparingly is because it's really, I'm not, okay, this is gonna come off like super cocky, but I promise it's not. It's super easy for me. Pretty much. I love hardcore. I love making edgy, screamy, loud, abrasive shit. But what I don't do much anymore is just slow down and take my time and like craft like softer sounds, even if it's like pop punk and shit. This new album, I mean, really, I'm not gonna say it's an album, but it's this new project is really kind of like leaning into the heavy stuff a little bit more, but it still definitely holds off. I think it's a little more into that direction though. But I think that having Unseen Forces as an outlet is great. But even in that project, we've kind of started to move away from the harder sounds and kind of went to more experimental stuff with a lot of our unreleased stuff right now. So it's kind of like, I don't really know. But I think I am starting to do it a little more as Dynastic. So I think that I don't see why that won't continue. I have some like straight up hardcore tracks that I've been meaning to release as an EP forever.
Do you think that's because you're either getting more into music that's a little like on the softer side, more catchy side at the moment, and that's just inspiring it? Or do you think it's more like, okay, I'm really good at this shit, so I want to do the opposite to challenge myself? Is that like, which one do you think?
Honestly, it's both, and I think they're kind of tied together because I have been listening to a lot more, or a lot less like abrasive music, like punk, pop punk, emo, screamo, post-hardcore, whatever. Literally like noise and shit. Like I've been still listening to that stuff, but branching out a little bit more. And I feel like my music listening taste directly affects what I make always. Like there's never a time where those two things are decoupled. So I mean, like for example, I think getting into Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh my
was
god,
one of
yeah.
the, like, most defining things for me recently. Yeah. And like I've been listening to like a lot more indie rock and stuff, and it's not that I was unfamiliar with it, but I kind of like just didn't listen to it often. But it's kind of like sparked something in me, and I just like kind of appreciate a lot of like varied sounds now rather than just trying to go as hard as possible. But when you do go as hard as possible, it's sparing and it's cool and it's like rewarding to get it every so often, so I try to like pepper it in.
I think that's interesting because I think you and I are kind of like in the opposite sides of that coin, where like
it's just I think I just did that for so long that I got tired of it.
Yeah.
And when I do come back to stuff like that, I'll have so much more experience under my belt. that it'll just come naturally to me in a different way.
And you'll have a different perspective just on music by branching out your sound, because you could mentally, sit down and take the schematic of a hyper pop track and like let's make that a screamo track now.
Yeah.
And just like having all these tools and like learning how to use them in new situations, like you definitely already have a very big toolbox. Like this album, now that I know, it's a conglomeration of various projects. You still tied it together well, because it's still all your music, so it's still all dynastic. So it all still sounds like a dynastic song.
Totally.
Even though like, we dip around with shit that sounds, like Cloud Dracula. That's like that riff, that guitar tone especially, is just like, what if Blink-182 was good?
Well, I love Blink-182, but I get your point. Yeah, that's funnily enough, that tone is an amp simulator I used to do an Orange Dual Terror simulation. But funnily enough, I have it, like the real amp, the Dual Terror, right next to me. My cabinet speakers just suck, so I can't like record it well, So I have it like right here, and I still have to simulate it with a VST. It's fucked up.
That's crazy. Yeah, I had like a Mustang 3 that was like that too.
But speaking of gear, so what did you use on this album? So like, tell me every piece of, every instrument, your favorite plugins you used, what went into this album?
Basically, it's a lot of different stuff. All up. Yeah, totally. I'm looking for the name of this guitar because it's kind of older and I can never find the exact one. But it's a 90s Ibanez Art Star guitar. I think it's the AS80. It looks like the Gibson 350. It's a hollow body. It was my dad's. He gave it to me. It was dropped on a hardwood floor and shattered in the back because it's a hollow body. So I have to take it to a luthier. This was before I got it, so I've been playing it just like busted open this whole time. But that is the main guitar I use. I have a Yamaha acoustic guitar that I use for all the acoustic stuff, like on Sway and what else do I use that on? Fucking Double Dose, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then my other guitar is a Dan Electro 67, which is real nice. Just it's not great for recording because it has single coils, which are very noisy. It's better for live stuff. I don't use any pedals because I don't have any. The one pedal I do have, it is broken, needs to be resoldered, and I'm afraid to touch it because it's a Soviet-era Russian big muff.
Oh, yeah, have a professional do that.
Yeah, totally. Like it's an antique at this point. So yeah, I don't want to touch that, but I do have it. It's going to be sick when I get to use it. And let's see. Okay, so like as far as recording goes, I use a Focusrite Scarlett 202.
Yeah,
classic.
We are sponsored by Focusrite.
Honestly,
it's not Focus
tried
wrong.
But true. I do eventually want an interface with a better preamp, though. There's some ones that have some nice like vintage preamps that are like analog, and they're not much more expensive. So
I use a Behringer preamp, but like I have a preamp that goes into my Focusrite, and that's like just another thing you can just like buy a mic preamp.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I'll look into that.
I was gonna say, I love how a lot of songs on this record kind of don't either have very short or no intros and outros. You know what I mean? Like it just immediately like punches in, let's go kind of vibe.
Yeah, actually, God, it's kind of funny. It's kind of sad, but one time I had a song. My first song that blew up was in 2017, I think. And it was called Efreef, and it was like my first track that ever got me more than like 10,000 plays. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. And somebody commented, great track, but sometimes your music feels like it overstays its welcome.
Oh my God.
And that got to me for fucking years. Like that was like, I wasn't offended. I took it as genuine criticism. And all my songs were like, I couldn't write songs longer than like 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes, because like I just always had that in my head. And then eventually somebody said, I just wish this song were longer. And I just kept hearing that over and over and over again. I was like, oh my God, I have the opposite.
What do I do?
Now. So yeah, and I had this revelation like a year ago. Like, this has affected me for like a long time. And it's not like it didn't bring me down or anything. Like, it didn't like ruin my life, but it definitely affected like the flow of my music. So this album is a lot of me just trying to like reclaim my love for like experimentation with songwriting and stuff. You know,
I personally fucking hate like really long intros and outros. Like, I just feel like it's it feels like I don't know, like an interruption from the song itself, like from the meat of the song. So I'll always make my intros and outros really short, really abrupt, or like something that I love in this record is how like No Romance kind of just fucking starts out of goddamn nowhere. You know what I mean? Like it just blasts you. I love stuff like that where it either bleeds to the next one where you don't even know if this is a switch up or the next song, or like you know, stuff like that just keeps you on your toes. It's like, I think there's a saying that was like, don't bore us, get to the chorus. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
And at least for me, I think that's one of the things I love the most about this album, that it kind of like, you know,
I'm glad
it doesn't overstay its welcome ever. It's just enough that you can like keep coming back to it. But another thing I noticed is that there's a lot of like short little like voice clips, like little like voice recordings. Tell us about that.
So those are all but one of those are Telegram recordings, because me and like pretty much all my close friends all have Telegram, and we talk in this group chat pretty much like all day, every day, sending each other voice messages constantly. At the time, it was just me and my bandmates that were sending these to each other. So I took voice clips that I thought were funny that we had like pinned to our chat and sampled them on the album. And then there's one right before Jacqueline, of my friends down in LA. We one of their cats had worms.
Oh God!
And we found a worm on the carpet, and it's my friend Zach going, so at first I thought that was rice, but then I took a closer look. I said, that's not rice. And my other friend starts laughing, and that's the voice clip before Jacqueline.
That's so perfect. How do you choose the right ones for like the right moment?
It's truly just things I thought were funny. Like, I just kind of like
just random, like
anything that makes me smile.
Okay.
It's like, it's not exactly it being funny, but I also like that, like, I love my friends moment, you know?
Yeah, it surprises you, and you're like, oh right, these people are fucking rad. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah. That's the feeling, you know?
That's a special little treat. That's a special Easter egg in the album that, like,
little Dinah egg.
Dinah, like, that's specifically for like you and your friend group, like an Easter egg that like no one can actually unlock this Easter egg in the album because they weren't part of that. But
yeah, they weren't there.
Did they hear the album?
Like, that's kind of cool. Yeah, they've totally heard the album. They heard it before it came out.
What they think about it? Like,
they thought, I mean, from what I remember, they thought it was pretty funny, and like they were happy that I sampled them. They thought it was like sweet.
That's not rice.
Laughed at it. And, yeah, that's not right. Exactly, yeah. And he had no idea. I mean, like, those two in that voice clip, I hadn't been talking to them for like a couple of weeks. So I was just super busy. So I'm like, hey, just so you know, I sampled you on my album.
That's sick.
Yeah, totally.
Like, what an honor.
Yeah, I have a question. I got like 17 words.
So I'm starting to think, but you should just be. I think you should host the podcast.
Oh, you sure? Nah,
I'm just kidding. I like to do this too much, but
I'll host the podcast.
A great co-host.
Yeah, Dinah, you ask us questions. Come on.
What's your biggest fear?
I'm not gonna tell you that. That's my weakness.
Having to edit out myself from the podcast.
Damn.
No.
Mafuba's biggest fear is being asked what their biggest fear is. So.
No. Don't tell the people.
Shit. Actually, so this podcast is growing great. But let's have a little smoke break real quick. I'm gonna do a dab real quick.
Yeah.
Let's just like
sure thing.
Take the lizard suit off and or the human suit
lizard suit. Yeah.
Let your human self show out for a second.
I have this like Poliwhirl plushie that has a zipper on the back, and you open it up, and then you can like invert it, and it turns into a Pokeball. And that's how I feel like when I smoke.
That's fucking rad.
I feel like somebody's unzipping me and turning me inside out into a Pokeball.
Oh.
Or into a Poliwhirl, maybe. Maybe I'm already a Pokeball. Who knows?
Dinah, I have a question that...
Shout out Polytoad.
What's up?
Yeah. It's not a podcast question. Do you like modern baseball?
I love modern baseball. I don't know their music super
MOBA.
intimately, but I think they're great, and I like all of their members, and Slaughter Beach Dog rules too.
Yes, Slaughter Beach Dog is amazing.
I saw them once on accident. It was awesome.
On accident?
Yeah, I wasn't there for them. I didn't realize they were playing.
That's
It was
sick. No,
Jeff Rosenstock and
I'm so
Scott
sad.
Network.
Fuck yeah.
Fucking, I can't believe that like Mobo has been sort of like in hiatus for like years now. Like,
Last I heard,
have
they
not
like
been talking
officially
about
broke
that.
up.
no, they keep saying like we're on a break right now. They just keep
shit.
making bands after bands after bands.
Yeah, man, I really hope they do something. Honestly, like, I wonder if they just knew they were like huge and could be like, I don't know, could make a
like
really
a
good
big
comeback.
like.
So...
Oh yeah, like the comeback formula.
Yeah, totally.
What I really want to
Mobile
hear from modern
classic.
baseball, so we're back in the podcast. What I really want to hear from modern baseball, because I wanted it to manifest. That's why it's in the podcast now.
Oh, you should play. Yeah. Put it in the
so
back.
this is in the podcast. This is how we're getting back in the podcast. Is modern baseball should come back, do this and revisit their old shit. You know, they did that a little bit, but like do that again, because like revisit it and not just like make it sound, you know, cleaner. Like fuck that shit up. Like,
Don't make it sound gross.
yeah, like take it and fuck it up as you, like the musicians they are now, and like see what you can do with the stuff you already have, and then
Didn't Infant Annihilator do something like that once, where like they took their first album and redid the whole thing like 10 years later?
I don't know
I'm
about
pretty
them, but
sure-
I remember. Oh God, what are they called? Fuck, not Law Dispute, not Jerome's Dream, but the other one.
Mom Jeans.
Mom Jeans. Touche Amore.
Touche Amore. Yeah.
Yeah, they remade
did
one of their
that.
albums.
They remade one of their albums, and it was good. It was like a really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I just like when artists do that. I also, speaking of artists that do that, while we're talking shit on the podcast now, fuck Connor Oberst for letting his staff call Mississippi a bitch.
Ooh, damn.
Y'all see that?
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of a hermit. Like I don't know what's going on outside until I
I
talk
didn't
to
hear
my
about
friends.
that, but I do know Mississippi.
Yeah, so Mississippi tweeted about Connor Oberst wearing his Yeezys, which, like, he's in his 40s. I don't think he should be wearing Yeezys. Not while you're in Bright Eyes. Put some
that
loafers
guy.
on. Yeah. Put some loafers on.
Put some fucking Vans on.
From, like, one of his side projects accounts replied to that tweet and said maybe Kissy Bitch should stop making stupid songs. And I was like, what the fuck?
Dang.
Damn.
And it's just like, he didn't do anything about it. And it's like, hey, you need to speak up when your staff is just like belligerently insulting people for...
No, yeah,
I mean,
that's real.
she was talking shit too, but like...
Oh no.
Dinah just left the call.
Oh shit.
Dinah.
I think she's
My internet went out for a sec. We're good.
Oh. I thought I bored you with talking about Bright.
I was like,
so angry. No, they got so pissed. They were like, "How dare you?" Yeah.
Dinah went to go find Connor over.
Do you know who I
I was
am?
just driven. I wanted to dismantle Bright
Shit.
Eyes with my own hands.
Okay, I'm keeping that on the podcast.
Yeah, please
Well,
do.
So, Dinah, after you dismantle Bright Eyes with your bare hands, piece by piece, will you tell me the, good artists that influenced you sonically lyrically, compositionally, and visually. We can actually break that into 4. I'm a little stoned. I just started reading off the Google
And drippily,
Doc.
like, what about your drip?
Yeah, but
who influenced
so
your
like
drip?
start like yeah. Who's inspiring you? What are you wearing, Dinah? Also, actually, this is very important. I should have asked you at the very beginning of the podcast. What are you wearing?
Well, currently, I'm wearing a necklace with a little crescent moon that I stole from H&M.
Ayo. Fire.
A Nazar pendant on it. I'm wearing a shirt that I usually wear to work. Wearing some shorts and 2 socks that don't match. And that's where we're at right now.
Amazing.
So, who inspired my drip? No one.
Everyone. And no one
What was
at the same
available
time.
to me at the time is what.
That's what being non-binary means.
I was actually kind of drip dropping a little bit earlier.
Oh, for real?
I walked out of the house with some real swag on, you know.
Yeah,
you know,
let the whole world know.
Crushed velvet shirt on.
Oof.
I was hoping you said a Naruto jumpsuit.
Yeah. The Ichiraku ramen like t-shirt. But yeah,
Okay,
influences
so
like
start with the
music.
first category.
Like an actual
So,
answer.
like-
run me through it.
So Dinah, what/who, you know, what albums or artists, like, give me who influences this album sonically. And I know it's going to be a lot because you go through a lot of genre in there. So there's definitely a lot of influence in there.
For sure. You know, I feel like I'm always trying to inflate myself sonically. Okay, Google, what is sonic inflation?
No.
Keep that in the podcast. I dare you.
I actually,
You made my Google do things.
Hell yes. Hell
hey
yes.
Siri, search sonic inflation.
No.
In this economy?
Hey Cortana.
Cortana.
All right, Dinah.
Nah,
All right,
But yeah, okay, so
who sonically influenced you? Yeah.
I mean, straight off the bat, I think if we're talking stuff in the scene right now, underscores and delete Zeke, hands down.
Of course,
Both inspired me because this is always kind of stuff I've made, but I never released any of it or never experimented with the electronic side of like rock music. You know, I always tried to keep it separate from dynastic because I didn't think people would dig it. But this scene,
Did you have
in
like a
particular-
side project?
Yeah,
where you
actually,
did
I
that?
had a little band. I only released a few singles.
Dude,
called
we had
Dog
the
Language.
same origin story. This is crazy.
That's wild. Yeah, I did like a pup cover. I did a couple of originals. I think I did 3 original tracks and a cover of a pup song. It was I can't remember what it's called. It's a good one though. But yeah, the band is called Dog Language. You can look it up if you want. It's dope. For some
Great
reason, it's
name.
been getting a shit ton of plays on SoundCloud, and like I don't know why.
That's the backlog effect. You're blowing up now, so they're blowing up with you.
Oh, I
like-
guess so. I don't know how people would be finding it though, but like I guess yeah, that makes sense.
all the Jedwell fans.
All the Jedwell fans.
But yeah, Sonic like underscores and delete Zeke and
They
kinda really
just,
got
like,
you into-
first inspired me to like start mixing electronic and rock music because I always felt like I wanted to but never felt like I could, and then seeing how much people rocked with that like really encouraged me, and since then I've stopped caring about what people think, which is kind of cool. You know,
You just like cared about what people think just enough to push yourself to the point where you don't need to do it anymore.
exactly. Yeah, totally. I realized I was stupid. So then I
also like
stopped.
you probably met a lot of people in the same boat where like
Yeah,
now you care
exactly.
what they think because they get it. You know.
You know, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I really only care what my community thinks and my friends, and they always rock with it, and I always rock with what they do because I trust them all artistically, and I think that's really cool. Like, I am convinced not one of my homies could make a bad song.
Same.
I've never heard one.
Impossible.
Yeah, but I guess like, Stomach Book, huge one as well.
Ooh, I see that.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Stomach Bug. A little more on the new project than this one, but definitely on this one for sure. I was really listening to a lot of The Garden at the time as well.
Fuck yeah.
Gold Medal was kind of loosely inspired by The Garden. There's also a band called The Help. It's like HELLP. They're pretty fucking good. And then like a bunch of like random indie rock and shit. Like I said, like I was listening to Great Grandpa. I was listening to Bombay Bicycle Club.
Oh hell yeah!
I was listening to like a lot of Anthony Green, Death Cab. Like, you know, I was just going through it. Talk Show Boy. If anybody knows Talk Show Boy, shout out Talk Show Boy.
What guitar bands? What like bands Dinah influenced this sonically as well?
I think.
What Guitar Heroes do you have?
Yeah, what guitar? Actually, sorry. How many Guitar Heroes have you played?
Let's see. I played 1, 2, and 3. I stopped caring after 3, and I played Rock Band 2, Lego Rock Band, Green Day Rock Band, and then I started playing Clone Hero. So like 7.
Hell yeah!
Fuck yeah!
Also, we're gonna keep that in, and I feel like you did mention bands, but my partner called me, and I just wanted to make sure they were okay. So I was texting, so I kind of spaced out a little bit.
Oh no, of course you're good. I kind of was like I was loosely going over some, but I think like if we're talking like specifically guitar music, The Hotelier, straight up, like that is probably the biggest influence on this record in any regard.
And you can hear that in.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of places you can hear that here. I like Jacqueline, Featherbrain, On Tape. I feel like they all have that vibe.
Absolutely.
Let's see, and then Ging Nong Boys, absolutely. They're kind of a little more unknown than I realized, but they're a Japanese pop punk, I guess, band. But they're extremely noisy. So a lot of the like noisier elements came from their influence. Like No Romance, like that kind of noisy element was definitely inspired by them. Double Dose as well. I feel like the heavier parts were inspired by them for sure. And then I've always liked, Blink 182. I used to be really into Green Day. I love Jimmy Eat World, Heavy Lolo, Attack, Duck Duck Goose, like a lot of shit like that. Many Dynamos. It's just like, you know, I was listening to a ton of Q and Not You as well. That was huge on here. There's like, you know, I feel like I have a lot of different angles of rock music in my like circle of taste, you know.
You had mentioned Stomach Book, and that really clicked with me as like, who has like a comparable composition track by track, you know, to what you have. And it's, you know, it's probably more reinforced than it is influenced by Stomach Book, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because you two are making music at the same time, that theatrical vibe through each track, not just through the whole album, even though you throughout the whole album have cohesively pieced together these things to make, you know, the whole picture and the whole like variant of the sound. But yeah, they're very thematic. Even like on the shorter ones, it's still we talked about you not overstaying your welcome, and you don't, because you keep bringing more things to the party. You keep having more tricks in your bag. You know, you're the person at the party with the fanny pack that's like, you need a vape, you need a cigarette, you need a lighter. Like, that's what this album is you're at the party with the fanny pack, you got all the tricks in there.
Yeah, I was thinking of the themes of the album too, and it sort of like matches with what Ivo was saying, where like I think the themes of, at least my interpretation of it, is like a lot of heartbreak, you know what I mean? A lot of like growing up. But not just growing up and like, oh, I figured things out. It's also like, oh, I kind of suck too, like in other respects. It's not just like, it's not just outward, it's also inward, you know.
Totally. I feel like
in relationships
the
too.
The emotion I try to capture here is figuring out the most important thing I've ever figured out, and that's I will never figure it out. Realizing that you can be shitty at any time, and you're never gonna like come to a time where you have to stop improving, or stop thinking about how you treat other people, or stop thinking about your mental health. It'll always be there, and it doesn't have to be a problem. It's just something that changes with you. So I think that just being aware that you're never going to have it figured out is super liberating, because then you can just focus on being your best self in the moment.
Yeah, and I think it sort of goes hand in hand with the sonic kind of vibe of the track list as you keep going, where it's like, if you would have told me, like, no, I rented a cave and I've been in here writing this whole record from start to finish, you know what I mean? Like, I would have been like, yeah, it makes sense, because, like, a lot of that through line kind of, like, goes from song to song, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
even
like
sonically, that. Too, like, I feel like it makes a lot of sense of, like, I got it, no, wait, not yet. I got it, no, I still need to grow up. Like, even, like, musically, it sort of feels like that's what you're bringing in with, like, your bag of tricks.
I'm really glad it comes off that way, because, like, I feel that every one of these songs, like, the story it tells is kind of like a lesson that I've learned in some shape or form. Some of them are different perspectives on the same lessons. Some of them aren't, but I feel like all of these are some sort of introspect.
Yeah.
So it's cool that it comes off like that, because it's me slowly figuring out different aspects of life, I guess.
Do you think, and maybe this is because of how much you love emo, do you think that, like, heartbreak is probably, like, one of the most, like, powerful, like, tools for writing, like, ever?
Man, that's a hard question, because I want to say yes, but the reality of it is, like, pain creates good art because we try to attribute as much meaning as possible to our suffering to make it all for something.
Yeah, because there's the flip side of it. Yeah,
and once you start to practice gratitude, you start to learn to do that with the good things too. And it doesn't always come naturally to me. I have depression. I can't help it sometimes. But at least knowing that is super helpful to keep myself in check.
You know, life is a roller coaster, you know what I mean? Like, you go up, you go down, but, like, you're never going to stay in one spot, you know, and that's kind of good.
I think heartbreak is the easiest emotion to make great things from. I think it's difficult to make great things from great things, because why make something new if it's already great? But it's just about pushing yourself to acknowledge the good parts about your life, or the things that you are grateful for, you know? Like, just acknowledging the things you're happy about and writing songs about them are cool. That's like, I mean, love songs are another easy emotion to tap into in that way, but not as easy as heartbreak, you know?
Yeah. I think there's something beautiful about it, as it, like, not that you experience the heartbreak, but that there is an aftermath of, like, growth right after. And you learn a lot every time, you know, you learn more.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely.
So when you were planning this album as an album, where did Lovesick fit in? Where does Lovesick fit in comparison to this album?
That's a really interesting question. Well, at the time, I mean, this isn't exactly the answer, but just a cool fact about Lovesick is I was listening to a ton of Dylan Brady, Peace and Love at that time, which is an excellent project. But that was heavily inspirational in Lovesick. So I got super inspired to make something with that kind of, like, noisy rock vibe, you know? And I just realized how much I loved doing that, because a lot of the songs I tried to make, I made before Lovesick, and ended up on I Know There's Something Left for You, which is kind of funny. But, like, a lot of the stuff I tried to make rock vibe wise is it didn't, like, the most I could do electronically was put a synth in there, you know? But Lovesick was the first project where I wrote the songs around them being electronic productions with rock elements. It was really interesting, and I realized how much I loved flopping back and forth, which one I, like, lean more heavily into. So I think I Know There's Something Left for You is me just trying to, like, capture that concept in a grander scale, you know?
Do you think that this record wouldn't have happened without Lovesick, like, coming prior?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Lovesick was, like, deciding that this was going to be an album was me basically, like, telling myself to just release the most unrestricted, like, expression of my style. And it felt so, like, liberating to do. And I think it was because people liked Lovesick that allowed me to do that. And that was kind of before I started learning to stop basing my music's value on what people think about it. Once I kind of, like, started to get in that mode, I think that that started coming naturally to me, you know.
I just wanted to reconfirm that FTL. So FTL was written for the album, correct?
Yes, yeah. It's meant to be just like the most hype opening track ever.
And yeah, and you did it, and I'm correct, you say lovesick in that and not true owl, right? Like you say the word lovesick in FTL.
Yeah, totally. That's a reference for sure.
Yeah. So like, that's good to know, like, that was written for that, because like that, the first time I heard the album, I was like, oh my God, they said it. They said lovesick. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah, and I kind of like,
yeah.
I emphasize the word a little bit in the song too, to kind of be like, you know.
Which led me to think, you know, love, and it does, like, it then confirmed that lovesick is in some capacity, you know, the precursor, even though it was created for the most part after the album was made. Well, written at least.
Yeah, I mean, a good amount of I Know There's Something Left for You was not made. Like, I'd say about 10 of these songs were made after Lovesick.
10 of them were made
oh,
after
dang.
Lovesick?
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Okay.
Between 7 and 10 were made after Lovesick. So it's kind of interesting because I had a lot of songs that like I actually had them like split up into multiple EPs, right? And then I released that album or that EP and people liked it. And I thought, ooh, what if I just like wrote more songs and glued it all together is essentially how I was thinking about it. And that inspired me. Like that kind of gave me a new vision on my style. And I was like, oh, okay, I could fit this shit in like in this specific way. And I don't know, it's just like the vibe came to me almost, you know. And I of course had to have Sheeran do the art as well because they did Lovesick, and I thought, you know, that visual style fit the vibe perfectly.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I was like thinking like, oh, we probably should have asked this at the very beginning, but I was like, tell us about like the cover and like the name of the album, you know what I mean?
Why a TV head instead of a microwave head?
You know, that's really funny actually. I'm gonna grab my phone real quick.
Who's the TV head?
Sharon actually wrote something about the art that I can read. Pretty much the name was there's a moment in my life where there are a lot of changes happening really fast, and I kind of came out of it feeling like super disoriented, like I didn't really know what to do. The name just kind of sums up the what's the best way to put it? Like the knowledge that it'll be fine. I just kind of have to figure it out. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know.
What the album name or the
name of the album? Yeah, it's just kind of summing up the idea of like, you know, there is something left for you. And you might not know what it is yet, but like these changes don't mark the end of your life or anything. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's
when
like,
it can feel that way.
So is it sort of like the title for you? You know what I mean? Like it's a message for you or to everybody?
Yeah, it's kind of to me. But if you find yourself relating to the messages in the album, maybe that relates to you as well. You know. And the artwork, what Sheeran said about it was that good memories are ruined by the people you're with, so you can change the channel to see the memories through a new lease and push things back, even if it's hard. It's ultimately for the best.
Okay.
You know? Which I thought was really cool. How I took it originally.
What was the prompt that you gave Sheeran like for it?
Literally, it was Double Dose's art at first, but I loved it so much that it had to be like the album.
Okay.
You know? So it was like just the song was the prompt. So this was based off of Double Dose originally. And it's funny because like how I originally took the message of it was that it was kind of like it was a spiteful lens, right? And I kind of like it's kind of like recontextualizing the healing process and focusing on positive things instead of trying to purge the negative things all the time. And instead of like blaming and pointing fingers, you just kind of like turn inward a little more. And I think maybe we're kind of saying the same thing from different angles, which I think is kind of cool. But I thought the way Sharon was like looking at it was just really interesting.
Yeah, I can't imagine a better like artwork for it. Like I can literally see this in like a vinyl sleeve or like even like just on CD. That should be crazy.
I would love to do vinyl. Any labels that have the hookup with that, hit me up. I'm available.
Did you shop this record around with labels at all?
No. I thought about it, and I didn't want to have to adjust in any way to anybody else's creative standards. And I know that's not really a thing with smaller labels, but I've had like indie labels give me like small notes maybe about the mix, or one time I had a label like tell me to make a certain section of the song like twice as long, and that's fine. They were all good changes, but a huge theme on this record for me was autonomy. So I felt like I had to self-release it, you know? Now that I've done that, this project, I am thinking about sending it to a few labels. Yes, this current one.
Oh, the new one?
Yeah, the new one that I'm working on. There's a few that I've had my eye on, a few that I think might have their eye on me as well, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to submit it and see what happens, but I'm not opposed to self-releasing again. I just kind of thought it was like it was a very pointlessly significant thing for me to kind of like make it on my own, you know?
So the album that I'm sitting on right now is like, I could get it done faster if I had someone do some of the work for me, or like, yeah, if I had someone else do some of the work for me, but it's like, this is supposed to be like my first, this is also like a very personal record. It's like, nah, everything has to be done by me, and I'm not going to, like, I tried to shop it around, and I gave up because I was like, no. This is, like, too personal to be, like, trying to sell this. This is just something I need to create and then release on my own, and if it gets any attention, then, like, cool. But if not, like, this is just supposed to be a product for myself.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's exactly how I felt about it, too.
I'm all out of questions. I'm just vibing.
What came first, the lyrics or the instrumentals?
That's truly track dependent. For most of them, the instrumentals. True Owl was actually, lo and behold, a phone recording originally. This is an actual recording, but the phone recording was something that I recorded on voice memos like forever ago, and I have it on my phone, and it's called I'm Indie Now Sorry.mp3. And that's what True Owl was originally. I kind of trip on my words a little bit, so I decided to re-record it instead of just using that version. So that one was guitar and vocals at the same time. Sway originally was the instrumental. FTL was kind of everything at once. Some of these, you know, they kind of happened at the same time, you know? Lake City Quiet Pills, you know, too. Yeah.
It definitely sounds like a lot of it has to happen at the same time.
Totally. I have a bad habit of producing while I write, but I wouldn't have as much like collaboration between the production and the writing process if I didn't do that. So I kind of try to balance it, I guess.
But sorry, I cut you off. You were saying Lake City Quiet Pills.
Oh, yeah. Lake City Quiet Pills instrumental came first. It's like I said, it's truly track dependent. I think the most interesting one, though, would be Gold Medal. That was mostly improvised. Aside from the guitar part, I using this experimental alpha DAW called Bespoke, and it's kind of like Blender visual node graphs, like, you know, the flowchart looking kind of stuff, but for audio. And it's really sick. If you get the chance, you can support them on Patreon and get it. It's awesome. But I was using that, and it's basically like a live like synth and audio effect DAW. It's always running. So you can just add instruments and stuff, and there's like drum sequencing going on, and yeah, totally. So that was that, and then I decided to do some like vocals on it, and that was kind of a really fun process, just improvising the instrumental and then just hopping on it.
That's one of the more standout tracks to me. Well, just because it's like so raw. Yeah, and that explains why it's so raw. It's like the raw song, despite it like the rest of the songs being lyrically more raw, that's the most raw feeling in the whole thing, I feel like. And to know the process explains that. And that's why it stood out to me. And that's really cool. That is. So everything else, did you use Ableton for?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't use Ableton for, but no, I don't think so. Everything's Ableton.
Yeah, because I forgot to ask you. I think we didn't go over what DAW you used when I asked you gear, but like I know you use Ableton.
Yeah, I totally use Ableton. The only track that wasn't made in Ableton was the And Dreaming with Kanan. That track is produced mostly by Kanan. So it's like a recording of my guitar, and then FL Studio production. So that's the one track produced in FL Studio, but it wasn't produced by me.
Shit. So sampling.
Yeah.
What'd you do? You don't have to tell me names. You don't have to, sample snitch on yourself.
Okay,
but
please.
What's got sampling on it?
Please bleep this out, but I do want to show you the sample for Sway.
Dinah just showed us the sample for Sway, and I yelled yes when I saw the YouTube title of it. We're not going to talk about it because we don't want Dinah, because I know that band will come for your ass.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you can guess it, I'll PayPal you $10. If you are from any affiliation with the band, no, it isn't.
Any other? Is everything else just like a lot of just combination of like MIDI instruments and things like that?
I pretty much did everything. Let's see,
and then guitar too.
I mean, Pet Dear Distance, I sampled my own song, which was the original version of that song, the like more hyper pop one that I was talking about earlier. It has that like that ARP in the beginning, or no, not in the beginning. It's like halfway through the song, but there's this creepy ambient ARP thing, and it was the intro for the original version. Caldecott was originally a song that I had made on my own, had my vocals on it. I thought it sounded too frantic and I couldn't sing it fast enough, so I had Grey do vocals. Everything else is like totally original. Just Sway has a sample.
I specifically, when I was listening to it today, there's two notes I wanted to ask. Is the snare in times 2 dose, where did you get that?
Let's see, I need to listen to it. That's a good question. It was I'm gonna have to look at the project file. I can I'm recording with Ableton right now, so I can show it to you. So
tell
later.
Tell me some other time, but that's an important one. I'll
pretty sure it is from the Yamaha RM1X sequencer. I'm not sure, but it's at least layered in there somewhere. Anyway, go for it.
Yeah, that snare just really like stands out to me.
I love those kind of snares. It's the new Jack Swing snare,
And then also, just like the Fox chain on Lake City Quiet Hills. Like, what were you using in that? Do you know off the top of your head? Since you're in Ableton, you can't open it up, but
yeah, totally. I know vaguely what I did. I use a manipulator for the pitching, pitch up 12. And then the formant is like +1 or 2. Gives off that like Porter Robinson _Z kind of soft vocal. It's the sauce. But I use that a lot on that track. OTT, I think, was involved. Had some like saturation, some EQing, auto-tune, of course. I think I had vocal synth, isotope vocal synth on there with like the breath turned up. And then I layered it with my unpitched vocals a lot. And then I think I put chorus or like ensemble or something on it. Yeah, something like that.
We went through like a lot of the stuff like pretty quick, but is there any specific song that you wrote with a purpose for, I guess, specifically yourself as a listener?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely wrote FTL to be insane live. That was, I think the songs that go hardest live are like the opening tracks of albums. And I love when bands start a live set with the opening track of their album. It's like oh my god, they said the name of the song, or they said the name of the movie of live performances. So I really love that feel, and I just wanted to do something that would like, okay, this could open a set and be super hard. This could open an album and just sum the entire thing up perfectly. I wanted it to feel like the start of a play or something, like the start of a musical, like the first song that like gets you excited and kind of like introduces you to the themes of what's going on. Kind of like some concept albums do that as well. Not necessarily that this is one, but I guess there's an overarching narrative. But yeah, totally, that was FTL. Just trying to make something exciting and really like just a good opener. Let's see. Jacqueline was my first time yodeling on the track.
Really?
That was kind of something I wanted to try for a while, so I decided to do it on that track, and it came out pretty okay. Pet Dear Distance was me trying to write something without a purpose, just purely express the emotion I'm trying to express in that moment, you know?
Yeah.
And it was very experimental for me. And I went to a lot of production techniques and songwriting things that I hadn't done in years, and it felt really good to just kind of like delve back into that kind of like unhinged creative process for myself, you know? So that's kind of what that song was for. That last song, there's a bonus track on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. It's not on streaming, or I guess other streaming. It's called Other People Don't Care. And that was something I wrote like a couple days after some dude just like tried to assault me on the street for no reason. Kept telling me like, you're real fucking tiny. You looked like totally like roided out or something. So it was just a song about how insane other people are, essentially. And my idea with that is I hadn't felt like that kind of frustration in a while with like another person, you know? So I just kind of like, I thought it'd be as raw as possible if I recorded it live. So that's what I did for that track. I recorded that. I made the drums and I recorded the guitar and vocals at the same time in one take. And that was it. Yeah, those are all like the purposeful tracks. There are reasons some of these other tracks are on the album, but there's a lot I could go into about that. Caldecott was something that I had really grown attached to because I played it at a lot of URL shows in the early like hyperpop scene days when like the pandemic had first started and like everybody was doing URL shows. I was just spinning that shit constantly. So it was special to me, and I was kind of gravitating away from that sound. So I really wanted to like put something in there that was still reminiscent of that. And in a way, it's kind of reminiscent of the music I used to make in like 2015, 2016, like future-based SoundCloud days. So I kind of like, I thought it was neat to have it on the album. Double Dose was kind of like my attempt at writing a Blink-182 song. I mean, like I say that half seriously. And like All Good People Are Asleep, I wanted to make something with Saoirse Dream. I thought it'd be sick to have it on the album because she's amazing.
She's one of the coolest.
We had been working on that song for like 2 years. So
I did not expect that song to even be there. When I was listening to it, I was like, yo.
Yeah, totally. It just comes out of nowhere.
We made it through the podcast then, didn't we?
Woo!
Yo! Is that everything?
I think that was everything. We're at 84
we
minutes
in. We made it through the
podcast.
Yeah. I thought... Well, it's weird that like talking about an album takes longer than listening to an album, but
yeah, you should do a commentary track version.
Oh my god, yeah. I'll just keep pausing it, and there's like the sound of me hitting.
Yeah. Like the best part, it's like just pause it.
I'm like chewing popcorn, and I'm like, okay, check this shit out right here. This is like the best part.
Yeah, close your eyes for this one.
But shit, Dinah, thank you for being on the podcast.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
for the podcast because it's really cool.
Thank
thank
so
you
for not calling the cops. I know I've been keeping you hostage here since last month.
Mafuba, but you've been really cool about that. I really appreciate it. And like at this point,
I mean, I wouldn't be an artist if I didn't understand. I will. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if I'm allowed.
No, I don't think so. But
no, so.
I'd be pretty pissed if you could leave.
Okay, real talk though, that'd be an awesome plot for a horror movie about like a deranged dude who like kidnaps two people.
Starts a hyperpop collective.
Oh my,
that'd be so crazy.
Just to keep him hostage in the house.
Holy shit! It's called Zeke Deleted.
Zeke Erased. Oh my god, that'd be fire. But anyway, I do gotta hop out.